what will go along will be Miss Sherritt will speak first, and then we'll bring in Councillor Frank Pendergast. Is that okay with everybody? Okay, over to you, Anita.
Yes, good morning all. We are here today to determine an application for a grant for premises R37-139 Breckfield Road, L54. The application was received by the Licensing Authority on the 11th of February 2021, with the deadline for representations being the 11th of March. The applicant is a Rashid News Limited, with the designated premises supervisor being a Mr. Mohammed Rashid. The general description of the premises is that the applicants have a long-standing family business almost across the road, and that's under licence number LA110010, and that's at 120 to 122 Breckfield Road North. This application is to license a new larger property for their business, which they intend to move into when the renovations are complete. Details of the application is that it is for the alcohol consumption off the premises Monday to Sunday from 0 Monday to Sunday. Sorry,
you're breaking up.
It must be this laptop, I'm afraid.
Okay, can you just go back to the opening hours, please?
By retail for consumption off the premises Monday to Sunday from 0700 hours, Monday to Sunday, which I assume that they are the same. If we should move all the conditions from the premises operating schedule and replace those which have been agreed with Merseyside Police. That pertains to CCTV coverage. The second is that the premises licence holder and staff will be vigilant and monitor the area immediately outside the shop to check that youths do not cause a noise at gate. Number 3, spirits will be kept behind the counter. 4, register of refusals of alcohol will be maintained. Register shall be, the date and time of each examination will be endorsed in the register. The register will be made available for inspection by the police and other responsible authority. A notice advising customers of the refusals policy shall be on display. Number 5, on first appointment, all staff employed at the premises will receive training in the Licensing Act, including input on preventing underage sales, preventing sales of alcohol to people who are drunk, or any other relevant matters. Training shall be regularly refreshed at no less than 6 intervals. The training must be recorded by way of either a paper or online system and made available for inspection upon request of the police officer and or responsible authority. In the case of online training, within 48 hours. Records will be retained for at least 12 months. Number 6 is that an incident book shall be maintained to record any activity of a violent, criminal, antisocial nature. The record will contain the time and date, the nature of the incident, the people involved, the action taken, and details of the person responsible for the management of the premises at the time of the incident. The incident book shall be available for inspection at all reasonable times by an authorised police officer or authorised officers. The records will be retained for at least 12 months. Number 7, a notice will be on display asking the customers leave the area quietly and respect the local residents. 8, the premises will adopt a Challenge 25 policy. This means that if a customer purchasing alcohol appears to be under the age of 25, they will be asked for proof of age to prove that they are 18 years of age or older. Posters will be on display advising customers of the Challenge 25 policy. Finally, number 9, the only forms of identification that will be accepted at the premises are passport, UK photo card driving licence, military ID card bearing the PASS hologram. Finally, an objection was received by Councillor Prendergast. Therefore, the licensing authority considers the subcommittee will want clarification as to what measures does the applicant propose to adopt and implement to address the observations stated in Councillor Prendergast's representation in order to prevent public nuisance and crime and disorder. Thank you.
Thank you, Anissa. I think, Anissa, you maybe need to go into another room or move around in case we need you back. I don't think we need you back, but just in case. Okay.
Thank you. Yeah.
By the way,
I will do.
We do have our solicitor here as well, Mr. Tomidis, so I forgot to introduce him. Okay, Miss Sheridan, over to you. Probably get more information.
Yeah, hopefully, Chair. That was a little bit difficult to hear. Right, okay. So, yeah, just to confirm, the application is from Monday to Sunday, 7 till 11. I'll cover everything, as you know, I'll go into everything in detail. I'm here to represent the Rashid family today. Now, you've got Amir Rashid, who is the son. I'll tell you who everyone is in a moment. So you've got the dad, who's Mohammed Rashid. You've got mum, who's Nadine Rashid, and Amir Rashid, their son. And they are actually applying for, the police were getting mixed up. It's not a variation application, and there isn't a transfer of conditions. It's a brand new licence application with new conditions on. They're applying for off sales for a brand new venture. Now, I'm going to talk a lot about the shop that they have at the moment because it's very relevant in a minute, but this is for a brand new venture across the road, which is going to be a one-stop convenience store. So I want to start by saying that fortunately, it's not a usual application for an off licence. Because the owner, the applicants, the Rashid family, are the owners of a very long-standing business directly opposite this address. That business is Rashid's News, it's known as, or Go Local, and it was started by Mr. Rashid no less than 31 years ago, and has been trading and serving the local community ever since. And selling alcohol for over 10 years. That's when it got its licence. The family live above, all of the family, including Amir and his two sisters. And over the years, that store has had to move and change with the times, which is why it got an alcohol licence in 2011 to keep up with progress. And now it's the general kind of convenience store where people can pay bills, collect parcels, and so on. So in terms of who runs that business, that falls to Mohammed, the dad, who is named as the DPS on that licence. He has a personal licence and is trained to level 2 personal licence holder qualification. And you've got Amir, and they run it hand in hand, full time. Amir retrained himself a couple of months ago with your local knockback scheme, which he passed, the training, which he passed. So both of them are fully trained. They work full time, run it jointly. Nadine helps out on occasion, but is a secondary school teacher, and the daughters have their own careers. So you've got the two gentlemen of the family, and they run it with 3 part-time staff, all local people, 2 of which have worked at Rashid's News for over 10 years, and 1 was employed in 2020 when they were made redundant due to COVID. So they have 3 part-time staff at the moment. So I tell you all of that. Of course, you're here to consider a new application for a new licence, but of course, the reason I said it's not a usual application is because essentially all we are asking of you today is to transfer that existing business over the road. Now, if that happens, and I'll go into what this new business is going to be so that you know what's going to be going on, but if that happens, the family are in talks with the school opposite to they would surrender the licence. The convenience store will close because they're talking to the school about making it a hairdresser's as an academy and as for apprentices for the school. So that is what would happen to Rashid's News if you grant this new licence today. But really crucially, what I want to let you be aware of, and why I tell you so much about Rashid's News, is that in 31 years they have never had a problem with age restricted sales. So for 10 years they've been selling alcohol to this community with no problems, no complaints at all. But, and it is relevant, that cigarettes are age restricted, have to be dealt with in exactly the same way as alcohol. Those have been sold since the store opened 30 years ago. Lottery started in 1994, again an age restricted sales, which is regularly test purchased by Camelot. And they haven't had any problems whatsoever. So it is a track record like no other of responsible retailing. So not only do the applicants know this area intimately because they were born here, they've grown up here, they've protected this community by being responsible retailers all of this time. So in terms of the new application, as I've already said, it's essentially a transfer of this business across the road. Again, they're moving with the times. I think the plan is, and Amir's here to answer any questions you might have, but he is going to be taking this over in the future. They need to look ahead, remain competitive, or they will get left behind. They already own the business, but it's empty, and again, it's due to COVID. But they're investing no less than 250,000 in creating this new convenience store. They've got planning; that's all gone through, and the new store. So essentially, again, a comparison is the current store is 60 square foot. This will be 2,000 square foot. So you can see the difference. Now, in terms of what you need to know about, which is the continuation of the responsible retailing, I mean, they're already doing it well, but this time they've decided to create a more professional look for their business because it's a more serious situation, much bigger. They've decided to partner with One Stop. Now, they could have chosen Coscuton, Londis, Nice. You know, as you know, I've seen you many times, and we work with all of these symbol groups, but One Stop are at the top of the tree in terms of that level of symbol group. They're very reputable. They're the market leaders. They're owned by Tesco. And the partnership, what the Rashid family are thinking is the partnership can ensure the quality of the offer that they are providing to the community. One Stop have standard hours of 7 till 11. 7 till 11 is perfectly standard for convenience stores. I'm sure we're all aware of that. And it will mean basically a better variety of products. They're going to be able to do fresh meat, which they can't do at the moment. They can have an in-store bakery, and so on and so on and so on. So the premises is just going to be better in every sense. Now, in terms of the additional support, should they choose to take it, they've got internal staff training systems, the till prompts, obviously the tills, everything, the CCTV. With this level investment, everything's going to be brand new, state of the art, security and so on. But they also, the policies and procedures, the point that the part of being a partnership with a symbol group is they must comply because it reflects on the brand if anything goes wrong. So they must comply with the internal processes. So it's Challenge 25, refusals, registers and things like that. So everything has been well thought about. The investment is massive, as you've heard. And they've got very, it's an exciting prospect, is this new business for them. But the biggest positive, alongside the investment into the area and they're assisting the regeneration of this area, is the employment of people. They're currently employing 3 part-time staff, and they are hoping that in addition to that, they're going to be able to employ a further 8 to 10 people from the local community, which I'm sure everyone would agree is extremely good news given what has happened with COVID. And as I said to you earlier, they've already taken somebody on who lost her job due to COVID. So that's got to be very welcome for the area. So in terms of the application, I've spoken with the police. Neil in the police, he's the licensing officer, and he took into account fully what this application was all about. We had a look at the conditions on the previous licence. We've upgraded what needed to be upgraded. So Challenge 21 was on that licence. We've upgraded that to Challenge 25. Everything is on there that you would expect. He's chosen the CCTV condition. It's more modern and fit for purpose. And he's assessed everything, and we talked about all conditions, and he didn't have any reason to ask for any more restricted conditions than they've been responsibly trading with all of this time. So those conditions have come directly from the police with a few tweaks between us. As you know, there's no objections from any other authority, and there's no objections, crucially, from the local residents, which I hope tells you the support that this business has. So that's the application, and I don't want to preempt anything that Councillor Prendergast obviously is going to say, but I think it's fair to say on behalf of the family that they are very bemused by his objection. They don't understand why he's putting trying to put a block on what they're trying to do here. They've known him for many, many years, have a good working relationship with him. I think you should have seen, and I don't know if you have seen my email to him, which was sent outlining the situation. They described me, Nadine described themselves to me as part of fixtures and fittings of this street. They're very, very well known, and they really don't understand why he is objecting to what they are doing, because they can't go ahead with One Stop and can't go ahead with this venture at all without an alcohol licence, because convenience is about being able to get what you want in one go. And if they don't get the licence, then that building will remain empty and the jobs will not be available for people. So I will leave it there. It's the most robust of applications I think I've ever presented to a committee. I would like the opportunity to respond to anything that Councillor Prendergast says. But that's the application. We're more than happy to answer any questions. I'm sure Amir will answer anything that you might have. So, but I hope I've answered everything that you need to know. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Ms. Shiraz. Have I got your name right, Shiraz? Yeah. Okay. Couple of things. So, they're moving the business from one side of the street to the other. And when they move, will they be surrendering the licence for that other building? You're on mute.
Sorry. The plan at the moment, but it might not happen yet, is that they do this deal with the school. But yes, if they move, if it's all successful, then they will be surrendering that licence.
So you're going to move out of one shop, surrender that licence, and then cross the road to go into another shop. Okay?
Yes.
Is that right? Okay.
Yeah.
So you said they've traded for 31 years in that particular location. And they've never failed a test purchase? Nope. And the licensing committee?
Sorry, I missed that. Did you say?
They've never been before the licensing committee, but
committee now.
My other question is, and it's a bit of a problem that I have, and it's a personal one. 7 o'clock in the morning, who are you going to be selling alcohol to at 7 o'clock in the morning?
Well, you can't answer that question because it depends on who walks in and what their daily routine is. It's just about convenience, is about everything being available throughout the whole time that the shop is open. And they probably won't sell a lot of alcohol at 7 o'clock in the morning. They might do, they might not do. I can't really answer that question. But as you know, I have to say, they have an early licence at the moment. They have a licence from 6 o'clock at the moment.
Okay, what percentage of alcohol will be sold in this business?
I can tell you that it won't be any. It's usually around 15 to 20% is alcohol in a convenience store. Okay, and the alcohol some of it will be behind the counter. Am I right? Absolutely. The spirit and high value items are always behind the counter, and then the remainder of I think Amir can answer this, but it's going just really close to the counter so that it can be supervised. Yeah. So I'm going on to the likes of street drinkers, because as far as I know, they're the only ones who are up early every morning to buy alcohol. Do they have a problem? And what would the problem arise if street drinkers are going in to buy alcohol? Yeah. Do you want Amir to answer that? I think do you want to answer that, Amir?
Hiya, can I be heard?
Yeah.
So we don't get any street drinkers in. But I believe they're more orientated towards the city centre.
Oh, I think you found it all over the place now, Miss C. The other thing I'm going to ask you is, Do you sell single cans at the moment?
No, everything's sold in 4 packs.
Okay. So what's the volume of alcohol that you sell at the moment? What I'm asking is the likes of the high volume cheap cider.
Yeah, I'll address that, Chair, because I discussed that with the police. They do sell some products that, and you'll know the difficulty with this condition is that the popular products, the ones that my husband drinks, are above a certain percentage. So they do sell products above that, but the bottom line is that they've never had a problem with street drinkers, and you know that condition is there specifically to deal with that issue. They've never had a problem with any street drinkers, and the police deemed it not necessary to impose the condition because of that. Yeah.
Okay. So they said they're working with the school at the moment. Is that to change your other shop? You said you were going to set up a hairdressing academy. I can't hear you, Mr. Rashid. Get a bit closer. Go on.
No.
That's better.
Yeah.
So basically what it was is a number of years ago, they had on the corner of where the shop is, they had a place called Sorella, which was funded by the school. They've now moved to Breck Road. We spoke to them about potentially coming back because they've always liked where the area was and wanted to go back onto the same street. So that's what the idea would be.
Okay. Okay. I'm not going to ask any more questions at this moment. I may come back. I'm going to bring in Councillor Kelly and then I'll bring in Councillor Marius. Councillor Kelly, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Just in relation to this deal or agreement with the school, how far advanced is it? Is it just an idea, or are we talking about almost signing on a dotted line? Do you own the other premises, or do you only rent them?
We own the premise.
So how far along is this deal? Because you've just talked about it being an idea, and you've approached a school and they've always said that they'd like to come back to this area. But how definite are they going to be in coming back to the area?
Well, we've only had preliminary talks with them because it is all dependent on us moving across the road.
Okay, and how sure, if you're able to move across the road, how sure are you that the school will take up this suggestion of coming back to the area and opening a community type hairdressers?
It's entirely at their discretion. As I said, we've only had an initial conversation with them.
Okay, so it may not happen, particularly if they are now established elsewhere.
Potentially, but it's not something I could answer at this time.
So if that doesn't happen, what are you going to do with regard to the current premises? Are you still going to surrender the licence?
Yes, there'd be no need for it. We wouldn't need to sell alcohol from two places. We will be converting this into something else, whether it be a hairdressers. That's the main idea at the minute. That's what we are pushing for.
Well, but if that doesn't happen, what is it you're going to do with the premises?
We'd still just go along the hairdresser route, just by ourselves.
So you would open it as a hairdresser yourself?
That's right.
How nearby is which local school is it again that you're looking to do this agreement with?
Across the road, it's called North Liverpool Academy.
And when you say across the road, it's literally there, is it, where these premises are?
Literally just on the opposite side of the road, just a little bit further up.
So, do you currently have any issues with regard to the students from that school during the daytime, in the morning, at lunch times, at the end of the school day, which tends to happen outside or nearby a lot of secondary schools in the city, where students then congregate and use a local store like this?
Not necessarily, no. They have teachers at the bottom which usher kids.
Is that at lunchtime?
The main school isn't allowed out at lunchtime. The only ones I believe who are allowed out are the sixth formers.
Okay. Well, then in the mornings when they're going to school and at the end of the school day, are there any issues with young people hanging around your current store?
No.
Okay. Just in terms of generally what's going on in the area, are there any general concerns, and particularly from the police, about people hanging around outside your current store?
No.
Because I asked that question in terms of the condition number 2 that they've asked to be included, where the premises licence holder and the staff will be vigilant and monitor the area immediately outside the shop. And I just wonder if they've asked for that condition because they are aware of issues or potential issues that could happen in that regard.
I can answer that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I spoke with the police. No, it's just a prevention measure, just as all the other conditions are. The police had absolutely no problems at all with the premises.
Okay, and if there does begin to be a problem with people, particularly youth, young people hanging around outside the store, particularly of an evening, how will that be dealt with by the staff?
The staff will the advice always, and they have the experience, of course, is if they feel that it's appropriate and safe to go and have a quiet word with them, they will do that. And if they feel that it's not safe, then they can consider reporting it to the police at the ultimate end. So that's usually the advice. But I mean, if they're well established in the community, they'll know the locals and they'll probably be able to just speak to them, I would expect. Okay.
And in terms of the storage of spirits, obviously the condition number 3 that we had before is that the police have asked for. They've asked for the spirits to be kept behind the counter. And I think you've mentioned that any other alcohol will not necessarily be kept behind the counter, but in close proximity to the counter. Why is that? Why is the spirits being asked to be kept behind the counter and not alcohol?
Well, I wasn't involved in the reasons behind this when it first started, but as you'll know, it's common practice that any high value, it's for theft, isn't it? Any high value alcohol goes behind the counter so that just in case anyone decided to come in and steal. And as for your wines and your general products, obviously it's probably the highest value stock that they have in convenience stores, and they need to keep an eye on it for that reason, as well as the underage sale issue. And that is why I know that all the convenience store groups they have set systems how they plan their stores, and alcohol is always close to the till and covered by CCTV so that so it can be monitored.
Yeah, because that's what I was going to almost roll on to. It is about the theft and particularly the high value spirits, but equally there is a potential for young people to steal any alcohol, just basically in order to get their hands on it. And obviously you've got the Challenge 25 scheme operating there, but that doesn't apply if you've got people running in and stealing alcohol. And that's why I've asked the question. But going on from that, have you had any issues in relation to the theft of alcohol from your current store? Has that been a problem for you?
No, we've never had any problems with theft of alcohol.
Okay, that's all the questions I've got. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you for that, Councillor Kelly. Councillor Marius, have you any questions?
No further questions, Chair.
Okay, I'm going to Robin, have you got any questions?
No, thank you, Chair.
Going to bring in Councillor Frank Pendergast. Councillor Pendergast.
The point I'd like to make on what's being said and in my contribution. Excuse me, because I have pneumonia and I might cough a bit or losing breath. I've known Rashid and his family for the full 31 years that he's been there. That's the full length of time that I've been a councillor around here. Get on very well with him, and he is a good influence on the area. I have no problem with him and his family. When I first saw this application for the licence, my objection is predominantly on the hours. The solicitor has mentioned that Rash has had, we call him Rash, not Rashid, it's Rash. I'm here on know that. When he first applied for his licence from 7 o'clock till 11 o'clock, I went and saw him and told him that I thought that he was foolish because this road is predominantly quiet after about 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night. And his reason for asking, I asked him why his reason was for asking for the extension. He said because other people around him were getting the same licence, and he felt that if he didn't have it till that late night, he would lose trade. I don't think that he's ever stayed open past 8 o'clock all the time he's had that licence. When this licence came in, and I put my objection in, Rashid came to see me because I've not been out the house since Christmas due to COVID and pneumonia. We had a conversation and I explained the same reasons to him about why I'd put in my objections. He fully understood what I was saying. I was surprised a day or two later to get a letter, an email off the committee section saying that I'd withdrawn my objections to the application. The letter was being sent by a solicitor. I had not withdrawn my objections. As the committee will know, I've always objected to an 11 o'clock licence for the reasons that were plain on the letter that I sent in, about the increased drinking, drugs, antisocial behaviour in this area. It's prevalent. And the letter that the form that I sent in shows the increases in antisocial behaviour, drinking, and domestic violence through drugs and drink in the area. The solicitor then sent me a letter and asked me to explain what of this increase was associated to Rashid's shop. I never replied to that letter because once people walk out of a shop with a drink, I don't know whether they got it out of Rashid's or the shop further along the road or the shop further about. The objections that I've made is that it's drink that caused it related to the licence. And in all probability, and it's been said by the police, they've never had objections about this shop in particular. That's probably because Rashid shuts very early. My objection is that, and I said it to Rashid, with them going under a one-shop banner, one shop do like their shops to stay open till 11 o'clock at night. And I'll give you an example of the one that has recently opened on the corner of Hamilton Road, right alongside the North Liverpool Academy. He said we have a car park. We objected on car parking right on the corner of Hamilton Road and Hayward Street. Oh, we have a car park, that won't be a problem. Go up there any day and see the cars that park right outside the shop on both sides of the road and cause obstructions from vehicles coming up Hamilton Road trying to get onto Hayward Street and cars coming off Hayward Street trying to get in. So they park both ways, even though they have a car park. We couldn't prove that at the time because their solicitor said, but the shop's not open and we have a car park, how do you know that will happen? Go there now and see it. We said about people coming out of the school at night, going in there in the morning, they would use the shop. And he said, oh no, we'd only allow 2 or 3 in. at one stage, because I haven't been out the house for a while, I don't know whether it's still prevailing now, but at one stage, the academy were having to put teachers by the shop and limit the number of kids going in there because the shop staff couldn't control it. They were trying to, but the kids were in that many numbers. It was one member of staff on the doors. Now, I don't know whether that will happen in Rashid and whether the staff still do it at the North Liverpool Academy. The mayor is right. Their present shop is just across the road from the car park entrance to the academy. And the children are going in there from 7:30 in the morning through. I think the school actually its opening hours are about 8:15 and they finish about 2:45, I think it is. And what I'd said to Rashid was, if you put your licenses in to sell alcohol from 8:30 in the morning to maybe 9 or 10 o'clock at night, which is an earlier hour, people are out the way and the road's quiet, 9 o'clock at night, I'd have no objections whatsoever. It's not about the shop in itself. The new premise is actually back onto the playing fields of the North Liverpool Academy. That's how close it will be. The old shop is only across the road. The shop that they have presently is limited, very limited in size. And I know for a fact, because Rashid has asked me on a number of occasions, there's an empty premises next door to me. They wanted to take it over to expand the shop that he's got. And for whatever reason, they've not been able to buy it because it's in dereliction now. And I know they've got problems. I have great sympathy in not being able to expand there. The premises he's moving into, he owns and used to be let off in flats. So he's obviously decided to move across the road and expand into something else. I doubt very much that North Liverpool Academy will take that over as a hairdresser, because they have got a much bigger shop on Breck Road. I don't know whether they'll want to, having spent a lot of money modernising that, whether they'll want to waste that money and move back and modernise somewhere else again. So I don't know whether that's a viable opposition, in all honesty. It's another one of those, it might happen, but if it doesn't, what happens then? And we could have, and Brash might decide to do it himself, but we could have another vacant property there. He may turn it into flats, he may do whatever, but it's amazing, maybe a couple of years down the line. My main objection is the very early hours of the alcohol being on sale, with school children from 11 to 18 going into the school right alongside, and the late hours, which will encourage it. There is a lot of drug dealing going on around there. I used to take my dog for a walk in Everton Park. I live right facing. I'm no more than 100 yards away from the present one shop. And the amount of carrier bags out of the one shop with bottles and cans dumped just by the church, Cochrane Street Church, where the can't come from anywhere else because there's not another one shop round. But it's one shop, carrier bags and cans and bottles, where the kids, somebody's been buying them. And I can't see the point anyone else around there. But there are cans, bottles and bags dumped just by the Cochrane Street Church, which is known to me and other people in the area, where young people used to hang around on the stairs. And it was that bad that the church put railings right round the property to stop the kids going in there and in the cellars and in their car park. So that's all fenced off. They now go and sit on the benches in the cellar. So I don't know whether that will happen with Rashid. There's not a little park there, but there's a big car park area outside, and there are other areas. I think there could be problems with it. And all I was asking them was, reduce your hours. I would have no objection. One stop being the people with the franchise, hanging around the franchise, will not allow that because it will affect the rest of their application right across the city. They have a set hours, as the solicitors already said. said 7 o'clock to 11 o'clock and all their other premises, they won't let that go. I also, Rashid did say to me, Frank, you know me. You know I won't be working that premises till 11 o'clock at night. And I said to him, Rash, I'm not objecting to you as such. Even if you don't keep it open till 11, that licence goes with the premises. And if you leave, anyone else taking it over will keep that licence. And they can then invoke that right till 11 o'clock at night. It's the late hours I object to, and the problems that that will bring to this area. We're trying to get shut of them, not to keep it. That's my objection. I welcome any improvements in the area. I don't think bringing an 11 o'clock licence is an improvement. I think it's a derogation of our duty. My responsibility as a councillor not to object.
Thank you for that, Councillor Prendergast. Councillor Prendergast, you mentioned do you have a problem with street drinkers in and around this area?
Yes.
Okay, because you mentioned a park. Is there a park? Everton Park. Okay, so there's a problem with street drinkers in and around that area.
Yes.
Okay, so do you have a problem with street begging? Because what comes with street drinkers comes street begging.
There is no problem with beggars, street beggars on Breckfield Road North, where this shop is at the moment. But there is a major problem on Breck Road itself, where they sit outside all the big shops all day. They actually take it in relays.
Okay. That's all I'm going to ask at the moment. Councillor Kelly, do you have any questions?
Yeah, just to clarify a couple of things. So, with regard to the current premises, they currently have a licence from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. Monday to Saturday. So, what time do the current premises close at the moment? Because I think you mentioned that they may not run the full hours. Do they go until 10 o'clock at night, or do they close earlier?
I believe they close earlier, but I think you really will have to ask them here about that. I believe they shut down about 7:30 at night.
Currently we close around between about 8:30 and 9, just depending on how busy it is.
So obviously we're going back out of sync slightly, but just for clarification, in terms of this new license for the new premises, what time do you envisage staying open until with that?
It's one stop of Astor's to open from 7 till 11.
Okay, so they want you to go until 11 p.m. Okay. All right, thanks for that. Back to you, Frank. So if this application, because obviously this new application that we're considering today, they're looking to open at 7 a.m. So they've taken it from what their current opening hours is 6 a.m. and they're going to move that on an hour to 7 a.m. and they're looking to stay open until 11 o'clock. But if this application was for 10 o'clock in the night, would you still be objecting to it?
It's the alcohol licence itself. If it was 10 o'clock, it would ease my worries. I think the present time that they're doing now, 9 o'clock, would be much better.
Right.
But my other part is, as I said before, kids in the area are arriving for school, which starts, and they're coming in at 8:30 in the morning, up till 8:15 in the morning. So the alcohol on sale up to that hour. I'm not objecting to the shop hours. It's the alcohol licence at that hour. But
that would still apply, though. That currently applies with with 120 to 122 Breckfield Road North, where there's the opening or the supply of alcohol is from 6 a.m.
Yeah, make the objections about that licence too.
So, looking at those hours, the early hours, in
Hang on a
relation
minute, Councillor
to
Kelly, hang on a minute.
yeah.
Ian Rushton's been brought in on here. I don't know why. A lot of noise coming from there. Can he
Okay,
be
Chair, I've just
back in the lobby, please? Thank you.
Right, he's muted now. So, in terms of the current premises, have you been specifically concerned about any issues with those premises in terms of local school children going in early and trying to purchase alcohol, or in terms of anything going on in the evening?
I've got no problems with Rash or anybody in the shop selling alcohol to kids. The problem is, in any of these areas, you usually get the children getting someone older to go in and buy it. And I ran the community centre, which was about 50, 60 yards away from Rash's shop. And I used to have young children, 13, 14, 15, and they would get absolutely paralytic on a Friday and a Saturday night. And it was obtained by getting older people to go in and buy the alcohol. And then they just sit in the street because the park isn't at that end of it.
So when you talk about older people, are you talking about the kids getting adults to do this, or young people who are around the age of 18?
All the teenagers, and also encouraging adults to buy it.
And
a vulnerable adult going into the shop, they know who the vulnerable ones are. And they'd say, we'll give you a bottle of beer if you go and buy us 6. Stuff like that.
And would you be aware as to whether this has gone on with the current the current premises that this applicant operates?
No, I'm not aware of it. I know it happens, but I couldn't specifically say it's in Rashid.
Okay. That's all the questions I have. Thanks, Chair.
Councillor Kelly. Councillor Marrat, have you got any questions?
No questions, Chair.
Okay. Robin, have you got any questions?
No, thank you, Chair.
Okay, Ms. Marrat, your response to Councillor Prendergast's concerns, please.
Yeah, can I just clarify, Chair? Am I summing up now? Is that what you mean?
You can respond to Councillor Prendergast's concerns and sum up. I haven't got a problem with that. Okay.
Yeah. It's the same thing as far as I'm concerned. So, okay, having listened to everything that's been said there, what I want to do is pull. We've heard a lot from Councillor Prendergast there that is purely speculative. There's no evidential basis for it in front of you today, and I want to remind everyone here the evidential requirements of the Licensing Act, and I can address those, Councillor Prendergast, that they are not evidence. And I know you're aware of this, Chair, because I know me and you have been at this an awful long time. But any restriction on this licence, be it a complete refusal, be it a curtailment of hours, be it a condition that's added, any restriction must be based on evidence. Because it will have an impact on this business. So, for example, the ABV restriction, I anticipated this would come up because it's something that is requested. And actually, it's usually your own licensing officer or trading standards that deal with the ABV restriction rather than the police. But in this case, they have not requested it. And like I say, a conversation with the police, it included a conversation about the ABV restriction. And the reason the police don't consider it to be appropriate is because there are no street drinkers that are linked to this area, to this premises, and there is not a problem. You've heard from Amir that there is not a problem with street drinkers. It is not enough for CAS to just say in a hearing, we've got a problem with street drinkers. There's no evidence being produced of that fact. And all I will say, issues such as street drinkers, and they say quite directly to you, there is no problem. So it could be a PUV restriction on this licence, which will cause no end of problems in terms of the products that are now popular. So that's in relation to the hours. I would think Prendergast, being old enough to license 1964 Licensing Act, which ended at 11 o'clock. We have had 11 o'clock licensing hours since 1964. So why it's o'clock, I don't know where that comes from. It's not the way the Licensing Act works. We shouldn't be dealing with broad brush approaches. Everything is based on evidence, as I've already said, and the merits of a particular case, as you will know. So again, looking at the hours, it's 7 till 11. Where is the evidence that 11 o'clock is not going to work? You already have a retailer here. You're not, even if this was a new application with a brand new operator, I would be making the same point. But here you have a retailer who can produce evidence. 31 years worth of evidence, 10 years of that with a flawless sales of age-restricted sales, not a problem, not a blip. Councillor Prendergast has said that he doesn't have a problem with the family. They are a good influence on the area, so they positively uphold the licensing object to curtail the hours. You know, any actions against a licence, any restrictions that cannot be desirable just because we think that's better. We think that that's what should happen, must be based on evidence. And the evidence is there are no problems at this premises, so no one can make a judgment call that all of a sudden there are going to be problems if this is granted across the road. So the only consideration here, as you know, but the bottom line is, will the evidence of that is already clear based on what happens across the road. Just bear with me because my notes are all over the place. The fact, I want to just pick up on the surrender point as well, and what's going to happen, and is it going to actually happen? Well, these, again, this family are more than entitled to keep that licence if they want to. Okay, they don't have to surrender it. They could apply for 5 licences on this road if they want to. That is the licensing legislation. We don't deal with need anymore. And again, the assessment of each occasion when they try to perhaps do that is, are the licensing objectives going to be upheld? So whatever happens across the road, whether it becomes a hairdresser's or not, is irrelevant because they're entitled to keep that licence at that premises if they want to. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Councillor Prendergast, summon up, please.
Yes, yeah. It's quite easy for people to say we've got a rule and you have to prove it's wrong. I've just explained in my presentation, one stop before the licensing committee to get it revoked. It's all stacked in the law that was written by someone who doesn't live here. They don't live around by where the problems arise. And even when you get the problem, you say, oh, but this is 1 in 50,000. And if the problems arise, and I'd have felt that if this was reduced in hours, but because it's a conglomerate, you know, whichever, whether it's Tesco's, Asda or whatever, they've got this, we open from 7 till 11, and if you want our money to help you get set up, that's what you'll do. And whether the people like it or not, that's what you accept. So I will object to a late licence on it. In an area where there might be more lively than it is around here, I would ask the solicitor or anyone who wants to support 11 o'clock, come and actually look around here at 10 o'clock at night. And the only people who are out are the people who are causing trouble. You might find someone coming home from work who wants to nip in and get a loaf. Might even want to get a couple of cans to take home because they're being working late. But the only other people are out are people who are causing trouble. The drug takers and the drinkers. And there are street drinkers who live up here. And they are out at night and they are causing problems. That's why residential burglary has gone up by 12%. They don't go out and break into houses because they like breaking into houses. They go out and break into houses because they want to get money to buy drugs or buy ale, because that's what sustains them through the days. That's all I've got to say to you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Pendergast. Robin, do you have anything?
No, thank you, Chair.
Okay. Okay, what will happen now, we'll make a decision today. That decision will be forwarded on to everybody in the next 5 working days by post. If for any reason you object to the decision we make today, you have 21 days to appeal our decision through the magistrate's court. If that be the case, I do suggest you seek legal advice, but I thank you for your attendance here today. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Chair, people have been invited for the next item for 11 o'clock, so there's a couple of minutes.
Okay.
Got Jean Russell in the waiting room.
Who's she?
I'm wondering, Anita, are you on?
Are we still live? Can I just check with the...
Yeah, we're still live.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll bring Jean in and...
Miss Russell, thinking your bundle is objector as the first objector. I don't know whether she's speaking on behalf of her own representation or in relation to the petition.
You can ask her. She's in the meeting. Jean, are you speaking on your own representation or others as well?
Just myself.
Okay, thank you. Ian Rushton was in the lobby before, but he's gone.
See if you can get him back in, Jane.
Anita, do you want to just mute your microphone, Anita?
Hi, Ian, are we expecting the applicant on?
Hello?
Hiya, are we expecting the applicant to come online?
Yeah, the applicant's next to me.
Okay, that's great.
I'm in, yeah, we're together. So, yeah, Visa is just a meter away from me, just watching and observing.
Okay, that's fine. Anita, are we expecting any other objectors?
No, this is the only one I've received. Thank you.
Okay, brilliant. Councillor Kelly, do you want to put your camera back on? Thank you. Okay, Chair, I think we're ready to go with the next application for Townsend Lane. You're muted, Chair.
Thank you for that, Jane. Okay, are we all here now, Jane? Yes.
Yes, Chair.
Morning, everybody. My name's Councillor Christine Banks. I'll be chairing this committee this morning. I have Councillors Billy Marriott and Councillors Malcolm Kelly, just us three that make a decision today. We've also got our committee services, our licensing officer and our legal services representative. So it'll be Ian Rushton, you'll be speaking, right, on behalf of the...
Chair, Nick Semper will be speaking on behalf of the applicant, and then I'll be speaking immediately following Nick, very briefly.
So we've got two. Did we have Mr. Semper down as a speaker, Anita?
Yes.
Okay. Just making sure. Okay. Anita, over to you.
Morning. Obviously, we are here today to determine a grant premises licence application for a convenience store at 46 to 50 Townsend Lane, L6. The application was received by the licensing authority on the 4th of February 2021, with the deadline for representations being the 4th of March. The applicant is a Mr. Reza Razi, with a designated premises supervisor being Mr. Zana Ahmed Hamedi. General description of the premises is that it is a brand new business venture and the site is currently closed. The site is to be refurbished with a big investment to become a modern and professional general convenience store, selling a wide range of goods including newspapers, magazines, groceries, soft drinks, cigarettes, dairy goods, snacks and confectionery, etc. The applicant would like to include some alcohol sales to allow the business to develop and offer the complete all-round convenience service. The focus of the shop will be as a general convenience store, with the proposed alcohol sales just being as part of the overall business. The application is for the supply of alcohol for consumption off the premises Monday to Sunday from 0700 hours to 2300 hours, with the hours of premises being open to the public Monday to Sunday from 0700 to 2300 hours. Objections were received from Councillor Radford, plus 11 local residents, and this included a petition. The licensing authority considers a subcommittee will want clarification as to what steps will the applicant adopt to address the observations highlighted in the local councillor's representation. How does the applicant aim to promote public safety and protection of children from harm to alleviate those concerns raised by local residents? And finally, what measures does the applicant aim to implement to satisfy the local residents in order to prevent crime and disorder, public nuisance in the vicinity? Thank you.
Thank you for that, Anita. Ms. Russell, I'll just give you an outline of procedure. I'll bring in the applicant. He will put his application forward. Then I will bring you in for your concerns, and then the applicant will address your concerns. So that's how is that okay with you, Miss Russell? Okay, thank you for that. Okay, thank you, Anita. I'm bringing in Mr. Samper.
Good morning, ma'am. How are you?
I'm fine.
Okay, right. This application is for a new convenience store and is straightforward in its terms and appropriately conditioned in its content. For reasons of time and clarity, I'll deal with the representations of the public largely together. Essentially, this application is dismissed out of hand on the grounds that the grant of an additional premises licence will cause problems in the area. I appreciate the position and will explain why I respectfully beg to differ. Now, looking at the representations, they are grouped into 4 main areas of contention. I think we'll go through them. 7 state that there is no need for another premises licensed premises in the area. 10 mentions that they anticipate a rise in crime and ASB if this is granted. 1 mentions unwelcome competition to a shop called Mio's, where the petition was seemingly collected. And 4 mention the hours applied for as being excessive. Now, the burden is on the applicant, i.e. us, to show that the proposals in and around the operating schedule are capable of promoting the licensing objectives. The representatives, on the other hand, have the burden to show the opposite, that premises operating under this schedule will undermine the licensing objectives and demonstrate that with evidence. Now, in our submission, any subcommittee properly advised can only refuse the application if this operating schedule is not capable of promoting the licensing objectives. There is not a shred of evidence in the representations that challenges or criticises in any way the operating schedule, the conditions, the premises itself, the applicant or the designated premises supervisor. So let me first tell you about the applicant. Reza Razai is sitting there next to Mr. Rushton, obviously nervous about the hearing today, as this involves a lot of legal and technical language and concepts most people are quite unfamiliar with. But I can tell you that he's a family man with 3 children, a qualified chef, and he's worked in restaurants and bistros in Liverpool, retailing alcohol for 4 or 5 years. He's also previously run a pizza takeaway in Lower Breck Road, so he knows the area well. He's currently a licensed Knowsley taxi driver, so clearly he's passed the fit and proper test to gain such employment. He also works for Uber Eats, which often involves delivering alcohol to customers who raise our nose about the importance of Challenge 25 and properly checking ID. He's been saving hard since arriving in the UK and Liverpool about over a decade ago, and he's invested his life savings in this new venture. He is of an unblemished good character. Okay, Reza's DPS and business partner is Ahmed Ahmedi, whom has a lot of retail experience owning and managing similar licensed premises convenience stores in Liverpool. This includes a premises license in West Derby Road, Tuebrook, about which I appeared before you on a previous occasion. Those premises have been operating for about a year and have maintained a 0 footprint with any of the responsible authorities. Despite the local representatives bemoaning to you similarly that on that occasion, that were you to grant that licence, there would be problems. Those doom-laden prophecies have simply failed to materialise at that other premises. Now, regarding the style of the premises, Anita has very correctly explained to you this is a new business venture and the site is currently yet to open. She's gone through the kind of range of stuff that's going to be sold and who's going to be doing the selling, i.e. Professional retailing, professionally trained retailing staff. So we'll move on then to the operating schedule. Okay, Liverpool City Council has been exceptionally helpful in its statement of licensing policy by providing a set of model conditions, and I'll cross-reference them as I go through this application in front of you. Therefore, address you on how the operating schedule is capable and will promote the licensing objectives, and I'll list them. So we will staff our premises with competent staff. We will train all our staff in responsible alcohol retailing. We will give them annual refresher training. That's all in accordance with Model Condition 2, Para 1. We will implement and employ exemplar control measures which Mr. Rushton will be leading on and upon which he will address you shortly. That is in accordance with Model Condition Para 2. We will safeguard by operating Challenge 25. We will safeguard against proxy sales. That's in accordance with Liverpool City Council Statement of Licensing Policy, Para 3.4. We will do regular litter checks. That's in accordance with Model Condition 4, Para 46. We won't stock or sell beer or lager over 6.5% ABV, and we won't sell single cans, and that's in accordance with the Statement of Licensing Policy 11.5, Para 3. Okay, therefore, every single element of the operating schedule before you does indeed demonstrate how we have complied with Liverpool City Council stated aims in order to promote the licensing objectives for this kind of operation. But rest assured, members of the committee, we will consider and no doubt accept whatever further and additional conditions that you think are appropriate to the grant of a premises licence to this first-class food-led grocery business in order to promote the licensing objectives. So, if you let me deal with each of the subject heads of the representation, each in turn. 1A, it's the flip side of the same coin. 1A, no need for another, which is one of the main refrains of the representations before you. The statutory guidance clearly tells us, and your legal advisor will know, that section 14.19 of the statutory guidance on page 108 states that need, I'm quoting them now, needs concerns the commercial demand for another licence and is a matter for the planning authority and for the market. This is not a matter for a licensing authority in discharging its licensing functions or its statements of licensing policy. End of quote. Therefore, the no need for another argument is irrelevant and should be excluded from your considerations here today. Of course, The flip side of that same point is 1B, we've got enough off licenses already. Now, I'm not going to wax lyrical about cumulative impact or CIAs because you are so well versed in them that would simply be wasting your time to recite it all again today. But it must be said that there is no CIA in place for Anfield, and therefore the legal provisions to control the number of licensed premises within a particular area are not in play today. This decision, like in all other circumstances, must be made on its own merits, and as I've said, the evidence before you leaves the operating schedule and offered conditions completely unchallenged. So we now go on to the second one, which is crime and ASB, the second theme of the representations. I have served on you the latest crime and ASB statistics for the last 6 months at this location, held by the Home Office and based entirely upon statistics served on them by Merseyside Police. Page 1 shows that the average, on average, every month 0.83 incidents of ASB occur at this location. 0.33 incidents of burglary and damage occur every month, and 0.16 incidents of drugs and public order occur there every month. The highest rate of crimes committed in this area concerns violent offences, which occur at the location at a fraction above 1 per calendar month. That's 1 every 4.5 weeks. That is remarkably low. And of all those stats, only a proportion of the offences recorded would be tagged with a marker showing alcohol was a contributory factor. So of all the offences before you, we do not know how many have been tagged as being alcohol related, but it will certainly be less. So you'll also know that I'm going to argue that this data cannot be relevant because this premises did not contribute to the pre-existing or current low level of crime in the area anyway, as it simply sold 0 alcoholic products to date. Therefore, with respect, you must simply ask yourself, does this application support the licensing objectives? If it does, then with respect, our submission is that it should be granted. But let us examine who else has made representations or not, as is the case here. The licensing authority, acting as a responsible authority, has made no representation. The police, the go-to organisation in all matters of the prevention of crime and disorder, and who, in my opinion, are ever eager in Liverpool to challenge any application on such grounds, have raised no application. Environmental health, who deal with quality of life issues, have raised no representation. Trading standards, who deal with underage sales of alcohol, have raised no representation. And public health, who deal with substance misuse issues, have raised no representation. And lastly, the safeguarding boards, who protect children from harm, have raised no objection. So it can logically be concluded that of all those responsible authorities, they are all satisfied that the operating schedule they have seen and examined is capable of promoting the licensing objectives. Moreover, they believe that it will not undermine them. So we're left with the members of the public who, with all due respect, wish to raise matters within the statutory remit of the responsible authorities, all of whom have remained silent regarding this well-conditioned application. Now, looking once more at the statistics on page 1, I was gratified to see that Liverpool is actually below average for all crimes per 1,000 of the population. Despite its completely undeserved reputation to the contrary, crime is lower per head of the population than beauty spots like Lincoln and Norwich, and significantly below its neighbours, being Manchester and even Blackpool. Man, in all complete sincerity, you're all to be congratulated. I'm sure that you will have studied these most up-to-date graphs of crime data and ASB data which have been provided in your bundles, and will give them the appropriate weight as the official Home Office statistics that they undoubtedly are for the actual location of the applicant's shop. That said, and it must be said, any pre-existing issues, low as their rates are, simply can't be laid at the door of the applicant, as he sold 0 alcoholic products from his premises to date. These premises have not in any way contributed to any crime or ASB statistics. Neither will they in future in our submission, in the event that this licence is granted, because of the extensive control measures contained within the operating schedule and the offered conditions. I'm now going to point out para 2.21 of the statutory guidance word for word, and in fact I won't do it word for word because you know it, because we've discussed it many times, about it being about offences and ASB committed beyond the immediate area surrounding the premises. These are matters for the personal responsibilities of individuals under the law, and therefore the perpetrator is accountable in their own right, and they cannot be laid at the operator of a premises licence. You will, of course, be reminded by your legal advisor that speculation as to what might happen at some undisclosed point in the future is excluded from your considerations in the dictum of the famous Thwaites case at para 46 of that judgment. Okay, now that approach, that stuff that occurs away from the premises, is also repeated in the Liverpool City Council Statement of Licensing Policy at 6.5, where it hammers home the same point. It says, in addressing applications, the licensing authority will primarily focus on the direct impact of activities taking place at the licensed premises on members of the public living or working engaged in normal activity in the areas concerned. All that, of course, presupposes that any potential perpetrators have ever visited these particular premises and have ever successfully penetrated the control measures that this applicant and Mr. Rushton intend to put in place. Now, I'm going to talk to you about likelihood, because likely effects are referred to in the Act. Let's break down how likely a real and tangible rise in crime and disorder in ASB would be. Now, the representatives take the position that, were you to grant this licence, then the situation, which is comparatively one of low crime at the moment anyway, will become worse. Now, I'm going to gainsay that, because selling modest quantities of alcohol between the hours applied for will not cause a new localised spike in alcoholism or conjure up many more people are so far unidentified street drinkers who will suddenly flood into the area upon hearing of this new convenience store opening. They have no evidence of that. It is merely their opinion, valid though it is, based on speculation. And just because another premises opens, it does not follow that there will be an increase of alcohol on the street. The amount of alcohol on the street will not increase unless there is a sudden, simultaneous and corresponding increase in the volume of the street drinking population, coupled with an increase in the available spend of each member of that now swollen street drinking population. The next area they've mentioned is competition. Again, this hooks back to the point about no need for another reference around economic need, but the statutory guidance actually goes further. The petition before you was apparently, at least partly, compiled over the counter of a neighbouring and pre-existing convenience store with off licence. Fair enough-ish, as it's got to be compiled somewhere. But you will, of course, be cognisant that section 9.4 of the statutory guidance clearly states that, and I quote, a representation from a local business person about the commercial damage caused by competition from a newly opened licensed premises will not be relevant. The last one is hours. I think 4 people have mentioned the hours. Finally, okay, that handful of representatives are concerned about the hours sold. Ma'am, these are not excessive, and I believe they have been trimmed to less than those of the nearest competitor premises in any event. Now, the applicant, has got a perfect right to apply for this licence and be treated lawfully and fairly throughout the process in accordance with the UK primary legislation, which is the Licensing Act and the Equality Act, and the statutory guidance issued under section 182, and your own statement of licensing policy with the attendant model conditions in that order of hierarchy. I must remind you again that you have not read in these representations one piece of evidence that speaks against this particular applicant, his premises, his DPS, or the proposed operating schedule. Now, the representatives must recognise that they're asking a lot of this panel. Were this application to be refused, you, the panel, must show in your decision the reasons why the unchallenged operating schedule and offered conditions fail to promote the licensing objectives. Secondly, you must show the reasons why you consider the grant of this modest application would indeed undermine the licensing objectives, and that thirdly, you must demonstrate that there are no further appropriate conditions that would prove effective in preventing the speculative problems that the public representatives say will necessarily ensue. Where is the evidence of support for the theory that the licensing objectives won't be promoted? And where is the evidence to show that the licensing objectives will be undermined? Certainly not in front of you. Therefore, with all the conditions that we've offered, we must impress upon you that the operating schedule and the applicants are sufficiently robust enough to ensure the promotion of licensing objectives. Consequently, I respectfully ask you to grant this modest, appropriately conditioned application. And now, with respect, and with your permission, I will turn to Mr. Rushton, who will tell you about the control measures that Razor will employ at the premises going forward. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Mr. Rushton, we're not going to repeat what Mr. Sampers done because he's just put the case forward and he's put his so no repeat of what he's just said. You actually going to go on the operation schedule?
Yes, Chair, and I will keep this brief, following Nick's presentation, comprehensive presentation. I will keep this very brief.
Yeah, because he put the operation forward and he summed up as well, all in one go.
Nick, yeah, comprehensive presentation, Chair. I will keep this brief. It's just, we realise how important it is to have everything up to date and keeping good records in licensed premises. I've known certainly Mr. Armidi, the DPS, for a number of years. His shops are always well run, and there's never been any issues with any underage sales or any other issues in those shops. In terms of this new shop on Townsend Lane, the staff will be trained before the shop opens and starts to sell any alcohol, obviously subject to the licence being granted today. We'll use the council's staff training booklet, which is the really excellent book supplied by the Alcohol and Tobacco Unit. It covers all the relevant matters such as Challenge 21. We're actually adopting Challenge 25 here, so we are going above and beyond the council's recommended training. It will cover proxy sales, record keeping, conflict management, and everything that you would expect staff to be aware of when selling alcohol. We also use the age check resource on DVD to reiterate to staff about selling alcohol and handling alcohol sales. We'll explain to the staff about the licence conditions and obviously the importance of complying with licence conditions at all times. Refresher training will be provided for staff by me every 6 months, and there'll be records kept in the shop available for inspection at all times. We'll issue the staff and the premises with a premises licence file for all these records to be kept here. And included in that file will be a due diligence checklist, which the licence holder and the DPS, they use that as a checklist to make sure that everything is up to date. All the records and all the posters are on display as required, and matters such as the CCTV, which is clearly important, is always fully working and operational at all times. So we believe, Chair, that everything is in place to enable this licence to be granted. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, questions. What percentage of alcohol will be sold in this premises? You're on mute. You're on mute. Go on.
Should be on mute now, Chair. The overall percentage is likely to be between 10 and 15% of alcohol. As you walk into the shop, on the site plan, you'll notice that the counter is immediately to the left as you walk in, and then the alcohol, the beers and wines will be at the far corner of the shop away from the main entrance.
So how many will Mr. Hamid and Mr. Razzie, will they be working together in this shop?
Yes, Chair, they're business partners. Yeah, they're business partners. There's always going to be a minimum of 2 staff on duty at all times, probably more on the busy weekends.
Okay, so this you said one of these have been a number of years working in off licenses through general stores. Is that right?
Yes, Chair. Yeah, the DPS, Mr. Armidi, he's got a couple of licensed premises already in the Liverpool area. He's a personal licence holder from Liverpool Council. Yes, I think the other matter just to raise, Chair, is both applicants, the DPS and the applicants, they live locally, so they know the area and they have experience of working in this area.
So none of us ever failed a test purchase?
No.
I've never been before a licensing committee?
No.
So let's go to the, will they be selling the high volume of alcohol, i.e. the cheap ciders?
No, Chair, not as part of our conditions. Yeah, there's no sale of stronger beers, lagers, etc. over 6.5, and no single can sales. We've offered those as conditions.
Okay. So street drinkers really won't be going in these premises to buy high volume, cheap ciders, etc. Am I right?
Yeah, that's right, Chair. We've got no intention to provide those alcoholic drinks yet.
Okay. Right. I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to bring in Mr. Councillor Marrat. Have you got any questions?
Sorry, Chair. Yeah, I am regarding spirits. What sort of spirits will be on sale in the store? What type of spirits?
Was that what type of spirits?
What strength of spirits?
Okay, it'll be the regular strength spirits, behind the counter. So the expensive items and the stronger, the spirits will be kept behind the counter. So we're looking at your general type of vodkas, whiskies, champagne, etc. They'll be kept behind the counter. They'll be the regular strength spirits, Chair.
Thank you.
Councillor Kelly, questions?
No, I'm okay. I don't have any questions. Thanks.
Robin, do you have any questions?
Can I just ask one question, Chair? Can I just check the hours that the applicant wants to apply for? It is still a 7 a.m. start, is that right?
Chair, we have, sorry, Chair, yeah, we have, following some of the representations from the residents and speaking to my clients, we have the shop will open at 7 o'clock. We would be happy to accept a later start time of 9 o'clock for the sale of alcohol. In our mediation letters to the objectors, we did put that forward to explain that we would look to overcome some of their concerns regarding the early morning start with a 9 o'clock start for alcohol sales.
Okay,
thank you, Chair.
Is that okay, Robin?
Yes, thank you, Chair.
Thank you for that. Okay, Miss Russell, is this your first time? Take yourself off mute.
Is that right? Am I right? Am I out
That's
now?
fine. And don't be nervous. We're all the same people. Okay, if we can be of any help, we will help. So over to you, Miss Russell.
My concern is over the past few years, the area we've tried to keep it down. You know, what's the word? The gangs of youths that are around. We had a few years ago. We had a trouble with a gang of youths who were buying alcohol from shops, local shops, drinking on the streets, and one of them actually threw a bottle at a man's head and killed him practically outside the new premises. And that's the concern of the residents. We don't want any more. You're saying it's all the crime stats are low. We just don't want it to be risen, given the opportunity.
So what you're saying, Miss Russell, is you've got a problem in the area.
We did have a problem, yeah.
So you've worked hard as a community to get rid of that problem.
Yeah.
And at the moment, it's working.
Yeah. We just don't understand why we've got to have another off license in the area.
Have you ever took time to sit with this actual business and discuss it with them?
No.
No. Okay.
I don't know who they are, to be honest with you.
Okay. So do you have a residents association?
Yeah, we do.
Okay. So with your residents association, it looks as if you are all working together. Do you work with the local businesses to discuss crime and disorder and other things that are coming in, businesses that are coming into the area and leaving your area?
I'm not sure about that.
No.
I know Steve Radford comes in on our business, on our committees.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, he's not here today. Is he here today? No.
I'm not.
No.
No, I haven't been to a meeting, obviously, for COVID, it's got to be at least 2 years.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, exactly. As Councillor Kelly, have you got any questions for this resident?
Yeah, obviously you've referred to issues in the area and gangs and potential problems with young people getting a hold of alcohol. Have local residents identified any specific premises which are causing a problem, or is it just a general issue in the area?
It's just a general issue.
I'm not sure if you've seen the conditions that these premises are offering up. Obviously, we've heard about them today. Has that in some way satisfied your mind that these premises are going to put measures in place to stop some of the issues that you've referred to?
Well, yeah, I just don't understand why you've got to start selling it so early in the morning.
So your main concern is with regard to how early they're going to start selling the alcohol?
Yeah.
And what would you have in mind as a time to start selling alcohol?
11 a.m. to 12 a.m. to 12 p.m. I should say.
Okay, and so what difference do you think it would make them starting to sell alcohol from, say, 11 o'clock in the morning opposed to the application, which is, flicking through it, 7 o'clock in the morning? So what difference do you think those 4 hours will make? What do you think it will potentially happen in those 4 hours if they were to start at 7 a.m?
I don't think it'd have much difference, to be honest with you. I just don't think we need another off licence in the area.
Okay, that's fine. Thanks, Chair. That's all the questions. Thank you.
Do you have any elderly residential blocks in your area that you know of?
Say that again, sorry.
Elderly, like an elderly residential blocks, of people that live in flats in your area?
No, there's no. I don't think any flats. There was on Lower Breck Road, but they've been knocked down.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Marrat, have you got any questions?
Yeah. No, thank you.
Robin, do you have any questions?
No, thank you, Chair.
Okay, who's going to respond to the residents' concerns? Is it Mr. Rushton or you, Mr. Samper?
Can I briefly respond, Chair?
Yeah, okay.
Great. Okay, I will keep it brief, because obviously I appreciate, it's a difficult matter for residents to attend these hearings. What I'd like to say is that, try to provide some reassurance. We will be a fully responsible retailer. We're not selling any stronger beers. We're not looking to attract street drinkers early morning. We're going to have CCTV inside and outside the premises, which can be made available to the police if there's any issues in the area. We'll do everything within our control to prevent crime and disorder. We would be happy to meet with Mrs. Russell at any time. We did offer that in our mediation letter that we've sent out via the meter. We're happy to meet with any residents. So in the future, once the shop opens, we're happy to meet with Mrs. Russell or anybody else if there's any concerns or questions. Staff are going to be fully trained on Challenge 25. And in terms of the early morning start, we have updated the application to try to overcome some of these early morning concerns by putting forward a 9 o'clock start for alcohol sales. The other shops in the area, the 2 nearest shops on Townsend Lane, they sell alcohol from 8. So, we are taking everything seriously to put forward a really strong application. So hopefully that might reassure Mrs. Russell to some degree. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you for that, Mr. Rushton. Right. If there's no more questions, I'll go on to sum up. Who's going to sum up, Mr. Samper or Mr. Rushton? I think Mr. Samper's already done that.
Yeah, yes, ma'am. I mean, I can, we've shown how the evidence of pre-existing issues from the Home Office is low. and so unconnected to this premises, then our submission is irrelevant. But as Mr. Rushton said, we are very, very cognizant of what this good representative has mentioned. I don't know what time this murder was and when it was, what time of day. Maybe that would help. Yeah, like I say, I'm not sure the concern. Thank you very much. I'm not sure that concerns about the early opening would therefore impact upon that. But that's by the by. I just say that for what it's worth. We still understand exactly what you're saying, and we will bear it in mind. Now, this is like any other application decision, like all others in this in these circumstances, needs to be made on its own merits. And as we have said, the evidence before you leaves the operating schedule and conditions completely unchallenged. The applicant is clearly a responsible person with an unblemished record, and the proposed DPS has a lot of experience with premises similar to these nearby, with a proven excellent track record of compliance and due diligence. Now, we've provided that line-by-line breakdown on how the operating schedule is capable and will promote the licensing objectives in accordance with your statement of licensing policy, and it ticks all of your model conditions over there in Liverpool. So we conclude that we've offered a completely appropriate set of conditions for this type of operation that will ensure that we promote the licensing objectives, and therefore that's everything we're required to do in accordance with the current legislation, the statutory guidance, the statement of licensing policy, and everything else that goes with it. So if there are any further conditions about this murder late at night, then this panel might suggest, then we will, of course, accommodate them. Thank you very much.
Ms. Russell, have you heard of a review? What residents can bring a review to licensing committees? Right, okay. Sit down with your local councillor when you can do. Because if you have a problem with any of your off licenses or fast food places, you can ask Liverpool. Yeah, it has to be evidence-based. So you've got to have your evidence. And then you have to have a look at, go to your police officers as well as going to your local councillors. And you can bring a review of any of those businesses before this committee.
Right.
Evidence-based, right?
Thanks,
sound bit of advice, right?
Yeah.
And we love it when our local residents get the evidence, do the work with the police, work with your councillor, and bring it before this committee. Right. And we go strongly if the evidence is there from the residents.
Thank you.
Okay. So a little. Is there anything more you'd like to say?
No.
Okay. Okay, Miss Russell. Thank you for your attendance today. We do appreciate it. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, everybody. If there's no more questions to be asked, what will happen today? We will make a decision today. That decision will be forwarded on to everybody who has appeared here today within the next 5 working days by post. If for any reason you are not happy with our decision, you have 21 days to appeal our decision through the Magistrates Court. If that be the case, I do suggest you seek legal advice. But I thank you for your attendance here.